Hi everyone, I'm Nicola Burton and I'm from Music Means Business, and I have the Pushy Boys with me again today, Michael, Manny and Mark, and we have a very special guest with us today, Amiel Matthews. Now Amiel Matthews is a Brisbane artist who we worked with for the past 10 years. I think it's about 10 years. It's been a long time. And he's one man that understands a holistic perspective of music. When we book him for a performance, we understand that he understands how to work with target markets, with different audiences, with different needs of venues. He's got a well-rounded perspective when it comes to music. So we are very, very happy to have him here today. Amiel, how have you been going in the lockdown?
I've been going good, Nikki, and I appreciate you and the Pushy Boys having me on. I've been doing well because I've got a lot of different side projects going on which have taken up my time, and such as teaching myself how to use Final Cut Pro as for video editing, to do this sort of thing, and that's something that I'd stumbled across the last time that I was up at the Barclay, so up in Mount Isa. So shout out to those guys, because up there playing gigs, you got time on your hands. So it's like, all right, in between gigs, I'm going to teach myself how to do X, Y, Z, or teach myself a new skill. So essentially coming into lockdown is like, all right, well, it's just like being at the Barclay. I've got to hone my craft and work on what I can. And obviously at home, I've got my studio here, so I've got a lot more toys to play with, so it's a bit more fun. But essentially this lockdown has been, well, it's kind of a blessing in disguise for me, because I've been able to finish off projects which I'd started, which I never got around to, and continue songwriting. And I've really actually got back into the songwriting in a pretty big way, which it was a bit too much on the back burner. But yeah, having those creative juices flowing again, and then thinking, oh, I can maybe make this video for it, or do this, or so my heart goes out to all the people who have, all the full-time giggers who really 100% rely on gigging for income. Like, my heart goes out to those people, because I know this would be really tough. So I consider myself lucky, because I've got a second job at a uni which continues. So I feel lucky in that regard, that I haven't been under the financial pressure of some other people. But I've certainly been making the most of the time in lockdown.
Very good.
Absolutely. So time is of essence. Sorry, Michael, after you, mate.
Oh, no. Well, you know how in one of our earlier episodes, we were talking about how it's important for musicians and artists not to be just have one thing that they do. I think Amiel is a really good example of someone who, has so many different things that he does. Like, he's got the studio, he's got his live stuff, he's got a solo, he's got all these different things that he does. So, Amiel, if there's someone out there that's trying to sort of expand what they're doing and expand just being, maybe a singer, guitarist or something like that, what sort of tips could you give them about setting up a studio, or setting up a space where they can write and record, or do those sort of things?
You don't need much. You need like a little audio interface, which basically something like this. Well, that's all I've got at the moment. It's got a mic. It's got dual input, mic and guitar, so you can record both at the same time. But even you don't need that. Like a good laptop, I use a MacBook, and some headphones. That's the bare minimum you need, and that's what I used for years, until we ended up where we are now. So, and that's all I had to do, was just find a quiet room, put your headphones in, and you can plug and record very, very easily. I used GarageBand for years, but now I've upgraded to Logic. So learning, and the reason I stayed with GarageBand for so long, because I actually did an SAE diploma back in 2002. So I've got my sound engineering ticket, but I didn't upgrade from GarageBand because I wanted to learn all of the ins and outs first to justify upgrading to Logic. And I think, just from my experience with talking with younger musos, they might upgrade to Logic straight away, but they don't. So they've got this great tool, but it's like having a Ferrari and not knowing how to get out of first gear. So you got to be careful with that really learn the tools of your trade. Or like getting a guitar and you only learn how to use 3 strings. It's like, well, learn the basics first, and don't be too gung-ho about to upgrade equipment and gear prematurely, because it's the knowledge of how to get the most out of your gear, which really opens up potential.
Yeah, that's right.
Good advice.
And loving the look of that studio there too, by the way, Amiel. Just on a little bit of a nerd tech out sort of situation myself. Just redid my little studio here and absolutely loving it. Is there a bit of kit that you're using at the moment that you just couldn't go without?
All of it. Now all of it. I'll give you a little bit of a tour of what I can. So I've got the KRKs. I've got the old Fender PA that I used to play with. I've got the S88 Native Instruments keyboard, obviously the software. There's the Ultimate 11 bundle I think I bought with that. But then I've got my Martin, which is my gigging guitar. So that might be a bit. And then I've got my other guitar rack. I don't know if you can see that with the SG and the Gretsch. So they're my electric guitars, which I use on recordings at home.
Lovely.
But yeah, essentially it's now it's what I can't go without is Logic and the interface. It just being able to plug in and play straight away and just get ideas down.
Yeah. No mucking around.
Yeah, it's not like the old days. Because when I did SAE, we were still splicing tape. So
wow, you're right.
Yeah, and it just took the older setups just took so long to get ready. But this is just you have an idea and away you go.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wow, these guys are fanboying all over you. Right
yeah, we could talk for hours. I'll butt out now.
Yeah,
Manny.
Yeah, look, I guess the question for me is, obviously we're, full circle at the moment, 360 degrees. So we're back into, the recording process, setting up our independent label. It's like our releases through a major aggregator internationally. So we're back in, I'm coming from an analog background with Patch Bay, X-Session Player, now coming into the digital world. And we're learning, basically the technology. So what I'm looking at the moment is how you balance up. I mean, at the moment, you've got plenty of time on your hands, but you're a professional musician as well. How are you going to balance it up? So when you go back, there's a need to play 2 to 3 nights a week to earn an income, so to speak. How will you then balance up what you're doing there? Will you have to take a little bit of, probably do lesser gigs to spend time in the studio, or vice versa? I mean, how will you pardon the pun, but how would you engineer that?
It may be a matter of taking lesser gigs. My long-term goal, maybe 3, 5, and 10 to sort of 10 years down the track, is replace gig income with composition and audio engineer income. So if I'm writing songs for other people, like I did with my mate Brendan, who's Bard Brunswick, we just released a song last week called that I wrote. I wrote the music and he wrote the lyric, called "Don't Make It So." So that's a little window into what I'd like to be doing more down the track, 5, 10 years down the track, is rather than having gig income, have producer, audio engineer, songwriting income. So once we are back to normal, in the current situation, I will be taking gigs again, but then maybe not as much, and just balancing it, trying to find that balance between being a studio musician and music producer, as opposed to being a gigging musician. But it depends on how that all plays out, because this situation is just so unique. It's like you can't predict how we're going to get back, especially because the hospitality industry has been just like hit so hard. It's right. you don't know. So it's just to be flexible, and just have a few ideas. If this doesn't work out, then I'll do that. Or if that's I'm not quite working, then all right, I might need to adjust. But that's like Michael touched on before about having multiple sort of
streams
skill sets.
Of income.
Yeah, streams of income, and that's something. Being a musician, that's something I've always had to juggle. So in this time of uncertainty, I feel I'm kind of match fit for it, because like
that's great.
Gig fall off or some things happen. It's like, all right, I've got to figure this out. and you just have to roll with it. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but as far as your question, Manny, I think I'll be taking the gigs as they come, but I'll be managing that balance as things go forward.
Fair enough. No.
And so, Amiel, if you could time travel back to December, what would you say to yourself?
You'll be right.
Good answer. This is all about resilience. This is all about using
Yeah.
your experience as an artist and creating an ecosystem of resilience so that no matter what hits you, you're going to be okay, and you've got options that you've actually established for yourself as a producer, as a composer, as someone who specializes in helping people set up their PAs and understand how to tune it. So you have actually set up a perfect ecosystem for yourself. Well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's sort of happened not by design initially, but it's just by necessity as things have come up. You just take opportunities. Like I said, like when I was in Mount Isa, it's like I knew that with the Barclay it's just far enough out of town where if you're just a little bit lazy, you don't want to walk into town. So it's like, I'll just stay in my motel room. But all right, so now what am I going to do? I'll teach myself how to animate in 2D, or I'll teach myself how to use Final Cut Pro. And it's these little blessings in disguise where, all right, and then situations like this come up where it's like, well, I can continue expanding doing these things.
I think this is great advice for any music artist that's watching. Sorry about that, Mark. Great advice. And Amiel, we have loved talking to you today, and we look forward to when the hospitality industry gets back on its feet and the live gigs start happening again, so we can actually start booking you again. It's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to the industry nights where we get together and have a beer together. Doing those.
Yep, that's
Can't wait,
Amiel.
And just quickly, is there a website we can direct people to, mate, if they're interested in your side of things?
Yeah, just amielmatthews.com.
perfect.
Maybe you can post a link somewhere.
Yep, I'll put the links to everything to what Amiel's doing. Stay connected with him, guys, because you can learn so much from what this gentleman is doing. All right, everyone, it was great to see you, and I'll see you next time.
Take care, Amiel.